Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. And we're back, pilgrims, for another episode of the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, I am particularly excited about this episode because we get to have a chat with a man who I would probably describe as the most wicked smart man that I know.
You've just given away who it is.
Well, only for those who pay attention.
Yeah. Now, look, this guest, I'm super pumped to hear what he's got to say because I've listened to this guy. I'm listening to his audiobook. I've actually enrolled in one of his programs, and he's got a lot of wicked smart content.
He does. He most certainly does. I'm excited about hearing what he's got to say about our pilgrimage, whether or not he gets on board with the pilgrimage. I'm interested to hear his opinion on the velocity of our games and all sorts of things. So how do you feel, Andy Walker? Shall we cut to the chase and go straight to the interview that we recorded just a little while ago now and press play and share that with our pilgrims?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Strap yourselves in, people. Andy Walker, what a morning, or what an afternoon, as it may be over in the good old US of A. We got a special guest with us. I might get you to bring him into the call.
Yeah, so our guest on this episode actually closely follows our last guest, John Weir from the Mental Golf Type, as he is a certified mental golf type coach.
Ooh, that's exciting.
He's also the author of a great book that I'm actually currently listening to the audiobook of called Wicked Smart Golf.
Nice.
Hosts a podcast of the same name.
I think I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah, plays off a +2 handicap and continues to play in pretty high-level amateur tournaments. I mean, I could go on probably for about an hour, but that's all we've got him for. So I probably should introduce
bring him in.
show,
Bring him in.
Michael Leonard. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to share with you today. I know we had a good talk before we hit record, and always great to connect with fellow podcasters and golf addicts like myself. And we can always bounce some fun ideas around and hopefully share some wisdom and help the audience play wicked smart.
That is awesome.
I've listened now to a little bit of your, quite a bit of your podcast, a bit of your audio book, and the game, a lot of focus is on the technical aspects of golf. You see YouTube videos and golf instructors, it's very, they're working on their swing, be able to bomb a driver 300 yards. Mm-hmm. But skills development is important, but then behind the skills development, you got to actually know what to do with it. Right. And this is where I feel you've got a lot of the areas covered in the mental game, course management, and also getting the most out of your practice sessions. Steve and I are both, pretty busy guys as a lot of sort of golfers are, very time poor. So maybe let's sort of go back and start off where at the beginning sort of your golfing journey. You've got a pretty interesting story and sort of, bring us through that journey to where you're now with Wicked Smart Golf.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. I think that it all started I'm 36 now, and it started when I was about 10 years old. I started playing golf and just pretty quickly fell in love with it. I was when I was 14, I went into high school. I was only 4 feet 10 inches and weighed about $130. So I was not being really recruited for basketball, football, or any other sport. And it's at that time I kind of fell in love with golf just because I liked.
Hang on, Mike. I've just got to translate because in Australia, if you were 4 foot 10 and you weighed $130. That's 130 kilos, which is about 250 pounds. No, actually, it's more than that. It's close to 300 pounds.
I wish. I mean, I was like half of that then.
Yeah.
So I was wearing a size small. How about that? And I was hitting the driver about $170. So
Yeah.
I was not hitting it very far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, so I just loved the game pretty quickly, even though I sucked at it. I mean, my first tournament score was 124, and as a freshman in high school. And I just fell in love with the game, though. Luckily, the coach at the high school gave me an opportunity. He said, "I see some potential in you," and I actually called him out in my book in the dedication section, because without him, we wouldn't be talking. I probably wouldn't be playing golf, and I don't even know where my life would be. So shout out to Coach York for giving me a chance, and he saw that potential before even I did. But I kept working and working, and by the time I was a senior, I was the captain of the team. I shot 74 in my first tournament, and in 3 short years, I improved 50 shots. So that was kind of the start of like, wow, there's a lot you can do. And don't get me wrong, I grew a foot, so that helped. I was working on my swing, but there was a lot of stuff that I cover in my book and on my podcast with the mental game, with course management, and really with short game. I think that's one of the most underutilized parts of the game to really shave some shots off your score. And so that was kind of like, okay, I really, fell in love. I was working at the golf course. I mean, I lived at the golf course, you guys. I didn't have friends in high school. I just wanted to be at the golf course. So it was great. I loved it. And then played in college very unsuccessfully for 2 years. And then I finally hit burnout, I guess, after, 15 years or whatever of playing golf every day. I finally realized how stiff the competition was in college too. And then I was like, man, my game is just not going to make it right now. And I kind of just was, exploring other parts of life and wanted to just, go to school and learn and do different things and travel. And so kind of fell out of love with golf for just a little bit. And, I never knew I was going to get back into it. And so I took so that was 2008, 2009. And then really for about 5-6 years, I did not play any competitions. I played recreationally a couple times a month, but really nothing serious. I was just kind of working in the corporate world and going through the motions there and trying to make some money. And then eventually I was 29 years old, and I was sitting there at my office and Googling how to retire early. I was like, there's something wrong with this, because I'm 29. I'm working at probably one of the best jobs a 29-year-old could have. And it was a tech company. So you had kegs, you had ping pong, like it was the tech, like stuff you see on TV. And I'm still was miserable. I was like, there's just something more that I feel like I should be doing. And there's at that time, I just tried to start doing a bunch of different things. So I went to acting classes. I tried to buy a camera and get into photography, and I got back into golf. And my girlfriend was like, hey, you're really good at golf. You love it. I don't know why you don't play more. And so bless her. And I started playing a lot. I know she's a keeper. She's a keeper. And then I just kind of fell in love with it again. And, I had grown a lot mentally, physically. And I just was like, well, my biggest fear is that I'm going to be old one day and I'm never going to say I tried to go pro, because that was always a goal of mine growing up. And so I said, hey, you know what? If I want to give this a real shot, I got to quit my job. And I was working pretty successful corporate sales job. I was there for about 7 years and kind of was at the highest position. And then as soon as I got that last promotion, I ended up quitting. And people thought I was crazy. People had no idea what I was going to do. I had started writing a little bit, but I mean, for the most part, I had no idea what I was doing. So leaving a very safe, very secure job to say, hey, I'm going to pursue golf and entrepreneurship was a little bit of a risk. And that was in 2017. And here we are 7 years later. Never went pro, but did go to Q school and have started several online businesses. And now I get to talk to people like you and talk about golf and share my love of the game with others. And like you said in the intro, play a lot of competitive golf. So pretty much either write about golf, talk about golf, or out there teeing it up.
Well, you certainly have hit the heights of golf journalism, getting to talk to people like us. I think there's nothing truer than that.
I feel like I've made it.
Yeah, I think this
was like, okay, I think I made it now.
Yeah, this is a career moment, getting invited onto the Missing Links Golf Show. No, in all seriousness, I don't know if we should be talking to you about golf or we should be talking to you about career advice at this point. Like, this is an incredible story. It feels a little bit like, to me, Mike, that you're a bit of a gambler, like just not necessarily going out there gambling money, but like you've done this career-wise, like this is an all-in bet that you've just said, I'm going to chuck in the safe zone, all the stuff I know, and I'm going to put all my chips on this bet of making it in the golf world, and you've been successful, so congratulations on that. But do you think it's important to kind of put yourself under that pressure and go all in, or just put a toe in the water and see how it goes? Because it's a different mindset, I think.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I was dabbling for about a year and a half. I had a blog I was starting online. So I when I was at my corporate job, I really wasn't working too hard. So I'd be working on that. And then as soon as the 4:00 hit, I'd head to the golf course. And so I was kind of planting the seeds a little bit. But yeah, eventually I got to the point where the golden handcuffs were real, and I just kept getting promoted and, doing well. And I was like, man, if I keep doing this, I'm going to just look back with regret and remorse. And I would rather go after my dreams and fail than never even attempt them. And so that was kind of when I went all in. And I'll never forget the first day I had to myself. My girlfriend went to work, and, I should have been going to the office, and I was just sat there. I'm like, oh, like, what did I do? Like, now we got to go. Like, it's not like I had like income streams already set up. I had saved a lot. I had minimized overhead. I mean, I tried to be as wicked smart as I could about it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it was a huge gamble, like you said, and I would be lying if I said it was an easy one. We went through some dark times, just like you do in golf, a lot of ups, a lot of downs. But at the end, I would say I'd do it all over again, because you learn about yourself. Yeah. And golf teaches you a lot about yourself too. So if you really want to learn about yourself, go into entrepreneurship and try and be a pro golfer at the same time. You'll really test yourself. But I think that, like you guys talked about, like it's important to sometimes go all in, and that could be in business, it could be in fitness, it could be in any area of your life. But yeah, sometimes we get too complacent, too easy with dabbling. And there's just a lot. I think everyone has a lot more potential in them for everything. Like literally, I think everyone listening could be 10 shots better at golf. They could be in better shape. They could make more money. Like, you have to have that like wake up moment though at some point to be like, let's go get it. Let's see what I'm capable of doing. Because the progress that you'll make is I get the chills right now thinking about it, because it really is intoxicating. Even if you don't hit your goals, or it takes longer, or you have to fail your way to success, it is so rewarding when you make it happen.
Yeah. It's a really good point. One of the central themes that we talk about a lot on this show is around the goal setting process. And, if you want to achieve something, you need to have a goal in the first instance. And actually a lot of people struggle with that. It's coming up with that big hairy goal. And Andy Walker, you got to write it down. We've been told that from our listeners. Having a plan is another thing, but the big one, which I feel is relevant in this, is making yourself accountable. So make it public, put it out there, tell somebody, and hold yourself up to that standard. So, I'm interested. Obviously, you've done that in your business and your personal side of things, but how it relates to golf and improvement in golf, is that sort of something that you feel is important as well from that perspective?
Yeah, I think accountability, I mean, when you really study goals, like you said, writing them down in your own handwriting has found to be more successful than if you just type it out. If you say your goals in the morning, in the afternoon, or, before you go to bed, when your subconscious is more active, that can help. Like, there's a lot of things you can do to help, but at the end of the day, you have to put in the work. So yes, I do think there's a lot of tricks and hacks to, get yourself better in that sense. But I feel like having accountability can be helpful, but at the end of the day, you have to want it. Like, I think that's the biggest thing, is that people like to even set goals and like to tell people their goals, but then they don't do the things they need to do. Whether, like, my girlfriend works in the fitness industry. So people say they want to have the six pack, or they want to get in shape for summer, but that's the easy part. The hard part is the process to actually go and do them day in, day out, when nobody's watching. Yeah. Because she can train those people for 1 hour and they can feel great about themselves. They have 23 hours to go eat a bunch of food, stop moving, doing all the things that goes against their goals. The same thing with golf, same thing with business. So yeah, I think accountability can definitely help. But at the end of the day, you got to want it. And I do like accountability though with golf, especially because a lot of us, we have guys that we play with, and you get in like a group and you want to improve. I think that's great. Like, sometimes I see these guys, and I think about people I grew up with too. You hang out with the same people, you do the same thing, you have the same conversations, and you never get better. So I like when you can find one person, like you said, to kind of be accountable for, but I do think at the end of the day, you got to want it.
And on that, Marcus, it's one thing I think to want it, but this is something that sort of Steve and I talk a lot about, and sort of briefly sort of mentioned it before in the two, guys with careers, with family, not having a lot of time, really time poor, making the most of that time. And we might have maybe an hour, like a week that we can sort of sneak out, maybe before we go and pick up the kids or something where we can go and make the most of our practice time. I know that you've got a couple of programs, directed towards practice and like Practice Like a Pro, I think is one of them. How do you then take sort of what you have, the limited resources that you've got in regards to time, and then make the most of it?
Yeah, good question. And today, actually, this morning, for one of my writing clients, for one of my golf clients, I had actually pitched the idea how to make the most of your practice time when you have a busy life. So this morning, I wrote 2,000 words about this, so this should be perfect.
Perfect. Perfect. Here's one I prepared earlier.
It was absolutely perfect. So once it goes live, I'll send it to you guys, and you can share it too. I think you'll really enjoy it. But I think one thing, even before getting into that, I had a guest kind of talk about this too. And when you do have a family and you have a busy life and we have everything, communicating to your significant other that golf is important, not because like, hey, I want to go get drunk with my friends. Like of course, that's okay if you want to do that too. But it's like, it can literally be a therapeutic thing for you. It can be a time where you're off your phone and you're now away from everything else. And it's a time for you, because you guys know, if you want to be the best parents, the best significant other, you got to take care of you as well. And so golf really can be that. I mean, that's why I love the game. It can be so good, whether you want to be competitive or you just want to literally have a kind of release. You want to have your own time. You want to be able to do your own thing. That's great. So I think communicating is important. And that way you can sneak in a little bit more time, and it doesn't feel like you're, trading your time versus, your family or your significant other. It's like, hey, this is 45 minutes. I just need this to be my best. So when I do come home, I'm feeling refreshed. I'm energized. So I think having that communication is huge. And then when you do have the time to actually, have it happen, I'd say schedule it, right? You got to have some sort of like, hey, this week I have an hour and a half overall. So I'm going to do 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here, 30 minutes here. So having a plan is huge, because there's nothing worse than going to the range or going to the golf course and you just like, you're there and you're on your phone and you're like, you just kind of wasting time. And then you feel like you didn't get better. You lost money. You didn't make it any closer to your goals. So I think having a plan is key. And then understanding that there's a lot you can do at home. So even if you can't go to the golf course as much as you'd like, there's a ton you can do. And I talk about it in the article a lot. You can do speed training. I know you guys have talked a little bit about that. I mean, that's one of the best things every golfer can do. Obviously, fitness in general is going to help golf to alleviate those injuries, to gain more speed, gain more power. An indoor putting green. I mean, that's one of the easiest things you can do. Putting is about 40%, if you count the putts from the fringe, of your total score. So yeah, the driving range is great. It's important to get out there, but so many golfers neglect putting. And that's why I spend a whole section of my book talking about finding peace on the greens, because you can be the best ball striker in the world, but if your putting sucks, that's incredibly frustrating. And so that's a low hanging fruit. And you can buy a $20 mat on Amazon. You can start working at it, and you can say, hey, 10 minutes before I go to bed every night, I'm going to work on 3 to 6 footers. Tonight, I'm going to have 30 minutes. I'm going to really dial in my pre-shot routine. Like, there's so many things you can do at home, whether it's journaling, it's, getting your clear about your pre-shot routine, talking about your goals. Really, there's a lot of things that I think we always think we have to go to the golf course and we have to spend 2 hours or something to get results. And it's just not true. Don't get me wrong. You need to put in the work sometimes, especially if you're, doing a swing change and stuff like that. But there's a lot that you can do mentally and physically, even when you're at home, instead of binging that Netflix series, instead of, just wasting time on the couch there. Like, just say, hey, I got 30 minutes, set a timer, set something up, so that way you can just stay consistent with it. And I've had guys on my podcast talk about, they try and do one golf thing every day. So that could be 50 practice swings. It could be 50 putts. It could be going to the golf course for 30 minutes. It could be stopping at the putting green on your way home from work. It could be the small little things. So that way you're just kind of staying with it a little bit. And like I said, there's a lot of ways to do it. But I think that you have to have a plan for it and just communicate that, hey, this is something that like really means a lot to me. And I think that people really forget that, it really is a lot of mental benefits to this game. I know it can get frustrating as well sometimes, but there's just so many benefits of being outside, being around your friends, working on yourself. And I think it can have a lot of benefits in other areas of your life too.
Mm-hmm. So with the home practice, of course, Steve and I have both set up sort of practice nets in our garage, and it's not, there's nothing complex about it. Like,
don't undersell this, Andy Walker. They're not just practice nets.
So they're not golf simulators. I mean,
they're high performance centers. Michael, is what they're known as. They're the Missing Links Golf Show high performance centers.
Trying to relate this to the everyman, Steve.
Yeah.
so it's all it is really just a practice net and a practice mat, like a couple of bucks. That's really all it was. There's there's nothing expensive about it. But you mentioned about the practice mat, because I don't actually have a practice mat, but I've been thinking about doing it. And in our last episode, we had a brief conversation about the practice mat, and sort of I think there's benefits, and certainly in that 3 to 6 foot range. Whereas you go to the practice putting green for speed training, and I know you talk a lot about speed training, which I've been also doing and helping my putting. So is that sort of what you're doing when you've got a practice mat? It's just whether it be a 6-8 foot putting mat, and it's just practicing your stroke and practicing like that block training with the short putts.
Yeah, there's a few things you can do. One of them is definitely recommending getting a putting mirror, just because there's just one of the best things you can buy, so you can look at your eye position. Because if your eye position gets off, and your eyes should either be directly over the ball or slightly underneath it. So if you drop the ball from your nose, it should hit the ball, or it should hit the inside closer to your feet. So that's one of the most misunderstood things. If you watch good golfers, they're always above it or slightly underneath. You will never see a good golfer where their eyes are actually over the ball, because it's going to change your line and it's going to change your backswing. And it's usually going to make your backstroke more outside. You want more of an arc stroke or straight back, straight through. You never really see the loop like you want with a full swing. You don't need to create lag with your putting, right? So I think that having a putting mirror. Yeah, I hope not. I don't know. There's a couple of guys that have some sketchy putting strokes sometimes, but
I've seen some guys putt from about 50 feet. Well, what's that? About 150 feet off the green.
Don't get me wrong. Putting from the fringe is important. But yeah, if you're 50 yards away, that might be a little bit too far. But I mean, there's a lot you can do with it. So I would say having a putting mirror is key. Another thing you can do is actually create your pre-shot putting routine. So if you have a little bit of room, you can kind of map out like, hey, is my routine taking place next to the ball? Is it behind the ball? Do I not take any practice swings? Like, it doesn't matter what your routine is. It is important, though, to have a routine. And again, this is something you can develop at home. You don't have to spend any money on it, but it will have amazing effects on your game. If you watch the Masters, you guys saw it. Everybody has their own routine and they stick with it. But then you go to the average golf course and most golfers have no routine, and then they wonder why they aren't consistent at all. Because when you have a consistent set of physical rituals, you're going to have a consistent set of mental rituals as well. And so you're going to be able to kind of fend off some of those nerves. You're going to be very clear about your target, and you're just going to remind yourself, stick to the process. So I think that's two of the things that I would recommend. And then, like you said, it's just that 3 to 6 footers. Like, that is so key. When you make 3 to 6 footers consistently, you're going to save more pars, you're going to make more birdies, and you're going to have more momentum. Because when you can save a bogey instead of making that double, you're not only saving a lot of shots, but you're keeping the momentum alive. And momentum, I don't think is talked about enough in golf. And I had a guy, a neuroscientist on my show, and he was talking about how the highest mental cost of any shot on the golf course is a short missed putt. So that's why if you miss a short putt and then you go to the next tee box, a lot of times you haven't processed it yet, and then you hit a bad shot from there, because it has the highest spike on your brainwaves. And so the more you can obviously eliminate those misses, especially the short ones, hopefully the better you're going to be on the next hole. You're going to have fewer blow up holes. And again, this is all something you can do from home. You can buy $20 mats. You can buy the $400 ones. Like, there's all kinds of different ones. One I really like is the breaking ball putting mat from Me and My Golf, because it actually has different golf balls with it. So you can practice right to left and left to right putts, which you just can't do on any other mat that I've seen. And it's like under $100, I think, on Amazon. So I really like that one too. And again, I'm just a big proponent of working on our short game, especially if you're strapped for time.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. I like, Mike, that you talk about momentum. It's an interesting word. So on the Missing Links Golf Show, we've actually replaced that word with velocity.
Okay.
So for no real reason other than we really like the word. So I like
the word too.
I would like to encourage you to try and work in the word velocity into, the velocity of your game is moving in the right direction.
It sounds like your game's going to take off.
It does.
I like that.
It does.
I'm a big fan of language, and the positive language, the right language you use has a big impact on your mindset. So I'm going to say the velocity of your podcast is looking pretty good.
Nice. Nice. See, perfect. You're all over it.
Well, we also have talked about, because we first of all started talking about this journey that we're on, but we've actually now changed that word to pilgrimage. So, we now say we're on pilgrimage, and our listeners we call pilgrims. We feel as though that a more just brings a bit more emotion into the whole sort of pilgrimage that we're on.
It has more purpose than a simple journey.
It does.
So definitely
I like it.
a pilgrimage to better golf.
You guys got it figured out. I like it. I like, you got pilgrims, you got pilgrimage. We're on velocity. Okay. So I got to make sure I just have those on top of mind for my future answers here.
Yeah. And nothing would give us more joy, I promise you, if we heard somebody else out in the golf world talking about the velocity of their game.
Velocity of my game is trending right now.
That is exciting. Wow, massively off track. Apologies for that. But Wicked Smart Golf. Talk to me a little bit about Wicked Smart Golf. What's your purpose? What, if you could look back and go, I've succeeded on this, and I've changed the velocity of the broader game in some way, what might that look like? Is that just helping the average Joe be a better thinker on the course, a better practicer? What's sort of the fundamental values going on there?
Yeah, that's a good question. So really the whole idea behind Wicked Smart Golf is just better golf without swing changes. And I don't have anything against swing changes, but it feels like that's all everyone practices. That's all everyone talks about. And I don't think that that's really that important, because if you think about it, every golfer, no matter how good you get, you're always going to be working on your swing. You see the guys at the Masters, they're still got their swing coach, they're still tinkering. And these guys are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars at this point to play the game. And so the whole thing is that you're going to be working on your swing no matter how good you get. So yeah, that's always going to be there. But meanwhile, if you really want to play better tomorrow, 60 days from now, 90 days from now, let's start working on the other things. And so Wicked Smart Golf is way more than just the mental side of the game. Mental side is important, but it's not everything, because I like to think of it like a sliding scale. It's like at some point, if you're shooting in the hundreds right now, the mental game is not that important, because you have to figure out how to hit the golf ball, right? Like that's the number one priority. If you could have the best mental game in the world, but if you can't hit it more than 10 yards, it doesn't matter. So we have to figure out, right? Like the mental game is important and it definitely plays a role, but it all is dependent on your skill level. So when you get to shooting in the 90s, it's probably 50-50. When you get to the 80s, it's probably more important. And then when you get in the 70s and you're trying to break par, that's where the mental game is way more important. And that's where it plays such a big role. So it is a sliding scale to me. And so that's the first section of my book. And really the 5 pillars of Wicked Smart Golf are mental game mastery, practicing like a pro, finding peace on the greens, obviously just getting a better putter there, just your putting routine and everything. The 4th pillar is becoming a wedge wizard, so short game. And then the 5th pillar is course management, aka playing wicked smart, because you can be all those first 4 things too, but if you're out there consistently making bad decisions, you're just going to have those blow up holes, you're going to have those inconsistency. And I think that like playing lessons, like if you had to get a lesson tomorrow, I'd say go get a playing lesson instead of a swing lesson, because you have to learn to think your way around there. And it's really rewarding when you figure it out, because like there's nothing better to me than when you kind of slap it around and you're just off, but you still play your game or even better. Because so I think scoring is just like a lost art. Like we just think about having the perfect swing. And I don't think I have a perfect swing by any means. And I'm, a pretty good amateur golfer. And I still get a lot of trolls on Facebook and some on TikTok and Instagram telling me how bad my swing is. And I say, okay, maybe, but I'm almost a +3. So I don't know what you want from me. And I kind of just push back on everyone that thinks you have a perfect swing, you always play good, because otherwise Rory and Adam Scott would win every day. And that doesn't happen. So yes, a swing is important, but I think it's important to have a consistent swing for you, knowing your game, knowing your swing, and then working on those other 5 pillars that I talked about. So that way we can always be improving and we don't fall into the trap that I have to swing like Tiger or Rory or Adam to actually play good golf, because that's just not true.
Yeah, it's a really good point. So interested in your advice. Obviously, you've not seen our game, so you're coming into this completely cold. But to give you a little bit of background, Andy Walker now playing off 3.1, I think.
Yeah, 3.1 or 3.4. Yeah,
3 point
so
something.
Nice. That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah,
So and his velocity is trending
come down a little bit.
in the right direction after an even par round last week, which we talked about in the previous episode. I'm not going to highlight the fact that he was 3 under with 4 to play, but that's a story for another day.
I don't know. That might be something we could kind of pull on that string or maybe figure something out.
Yeah.
Well, it's something, Mike, that I a couple of weeks prior to that, I was 2 under with 6 to play. So in my sort of previous life when I was playing seriously, under par wasn't that much of a drama, but it's been 25 years since I've regularly shot subpar, and it was really uncomfortable, I have to say. A really good feeling and loved it, but it was quite uncomfortable. And my game is probably not quite at a standard where it sort of gets to that, where I'm able to keep going. But certainly the velocity of it is heading in the right direction.
What was uncomfortable about it?
Just the whole. I guess the whole concept of, okay, I'm 3 under, and
the excitement.
The excitement. Oh wow, I'm under par. It's a really sort of, well, I see it as a big thing, breaking par. Haven't done it for quite a long time, so I was getting nervous over my shots. The great thing, and we talked about it in the last episode, is that I've done probably most of level 1 of the mental golf type. So I'm trying to put some of those principles into practice with my mental golf type. So I was certainly a lot more comfortable last week when I was 3 under with 4 to play than what I was a couple of weeks prior to that. But it's just, I think it's just getting used to being in that position where, you've got that excitement and, the nerves are starting to tingle a little bit that you're shooting a good round, and certainly being 3 under par, because as I said, it's been a long time since I've been that far under par.
Mm-hmm. Was that something that you were thinking consciously about? Like, I'm 3 under par, or does someone say it to you? Or was there like a turning point where all of a sudden you were at 3 under and then you just made a terrible swing on the next hole? Or was it just kind of like golf happened a little bit?
Yeah, I feel as though golf happened a little bit, because while I was aware that I was 3 under par, it wasn't top of mind. It probably was a couple of weeks prior to that when I was 2 under with 6 to play. I was like, I'm 2 under, and I was sort of thinking that a lot more. But with the closing holes of my home club, they're a pretty strong stretch of the last 4 holes. And 15, I just 3 putted. I was sort of downhill, downwind, and just ran it about 5 feet past and missed the returning. 16, I hit a poor drive. And then 18, I hit a poor second shot. So, I don't feel as though I did that much wrong. And I don't feel as though my, the mental approach that I had, was bad. It's just that, I was playing off 5 on the day. I'm just a 5 handicapper and I'm going to hit some bad shots. It's just that they happen in the last 4 holes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's so important, to understand that no matter how good you get, bad shots are part of the process. And even your best rounds, you're still going to have some you're like, oh, that wasn't very good. But it's like you said, having the right mindset around that. And I think too, one thing I would just say, like, when you are playing well, don't run from it. I think a lot of guys, when they're playing well, like, they just like try and like put their head down and be like, don't talk about it. Right. It's like I guess you're not with baseball, if someone's throwing hasn't thrown a strikeout or a hit, they're, not really, they don't want to jinx it. And I think that as golfers, like, yeah, I mean, if your buddy's playing well, I wouldn't walk up to him and be like, you're 6 under today. Like, chances are he probably knows. But in your own mind, like, when you are playing well, what I used to do is the same thing. And I'd be like, don't screw this up. Well, I mean, the only reason I'm playing well is because I played my game. I played freely and I did what I needed to do. And then all of a sudden, sometimes we start to realize it and we drift to the future and we're like, just make par, just par out. And I think that when you realize that you are playing well, just be like, nice job. I am playing well, and like acknowledge it. It's okay. And then say, well, how can I finish the way I have been playing? By sticking to the things I've already been doing. You don't have to do anything different. You already know that it works. You already have that blueprint. But I find that so many golfers just try and bury their head in the sand because they're so worried about what's going to happen on the next few holes. And the second your mind drifts to the future, you're not present for the shot. You're not going to pick the right club. You're not going to have the right strategy for the hole. And it's really easy to just all of a sudden crumble and be like, oh, that was bound to happen. And then you kind of spiral downhill. And so, yeah, I think that acknowledging, hey, I'm playing well, stick with it. That's what I always just tell my students, stick with it. What got you here is how you're going to finish strong. And too many people try and change the trajectory of everything or inject some new swing thought or try and kind of get away from the program or the formula that already worked for them.
Mm. Yeah, and it's interesting because I was talking during the week to a good mate of mine who we actually had on the show a couple of months ago, a guy by the name of Scotty Fisher, and he actually played pro golf for a little while, played around the Asia Pacific, and I was talking to him about going under par and what he used to do, and he was very much, okay, I need to stay present, but he had the attitude of being greedy. So it wasn't, okay, I'm 3 under par or 4 under par, and I want to maintain that. It's okay, I'm 3 or 4 under and I'm going to be greedy. I want more. I want another birdie and another birdie.
Yeah, keep your foot down.
And I really liked that mentality and that focus is, you're there on, this particular shot, this particular hole, get greedy on this hole and try and make another one. So yeah. It's not something I've tried yet, but it's certainly something that I'm going to try and put into practice.
One thing I learned from John too, I know you guys just had him on, he told me to set birdie goals. So never set score goals, but set birdie goals. And if you're a mid handicap, higher handicap, set par goals. So that way, when you are playing good, you still, like you said, keep your foot down. And for example, 6 birdie goals is typically my goal on a course. I don't hit it most of the time, but at least I'm trying to stay aggressive and trying to stay, and I don't even want to say aggressive. I want to stay consistent and I want to give myself the opportunities. I'm never trying to like force putts in just to say I got it there or something. But I really like the birdie goals because bogeys are pretty much going to happen no matter how good you get. Like I had maybe 2 rounds last year where I didn't have a bogey. So they pretty much are always going to be there. But birdie goals, staying consistent, staying with it. And especially when you're playing good, right? Like when you were 2 under there and you had 6 to play, be like, hey, I got these next few holes. Let's try and make a birdie in the next 2, like just to stay with it, stay consistent. Because so many guys, as soon as they realize they're playing good, retreat, and then they're like, let's just not screw up, and that really goes against everything that got you there in the first place.
Yeah, I think that protectionism, trying to protect the score and get it into the clubhouse, obviously, is where things go a little bit pear-shaped. Reminded me when I was listening to you both have that conversation, I think it was Dr. Bob Rotella who talked about have a conservative strategy but a cocky swing.
Yeah.
So like you're thinking away from the trouble, but when you're swinging, you're not swinging away from the trouble. You've still got the cocky, aggressive swing, but your strategy is trying to be smart. I don't know.
Wasn't it Tiger who said that he plays aggressively? He swings aggressively towards conservative targets.
It's the same,
which is effectively the same thing. Yeah,
sounds wicked smart if you ask me.
That is wicked smart approved. Tiger is the definition. He's got all the pillars and a lot more than I can ever achieve. But I think that Tiger does not get enough credit for how good of a course manager he is over the years. And even you saw it in the Masters. He did not have his best stuff the first 2 days, and he's just getting up and down from everywhere. Had a great short game, great putting, and that's key. I mean, to make 24 cuts in a row at the Masters is insane.
It's amazing.
And he has every part of his game, and obviously when he was in his prime and injury free and stuff, he really had it. But man, his mental game, his short game, and his course management skills are second to none.
So, Mike, we've talked a bit about Andy Walker's mental fragility. Is always a phrase that I like to slide in every episode. I too have faced my own demons from time to time. So, by way of background,
I didn't hit that thumbs down. By the way, I don't know. My hands are here. I don't know what happened there. Sorry.
It's just I think it was just an emotional response. Zoom's quite intuitive these days. So anyway, I'm currently playing off 8.5. I think I may have said this to you in an email last week. Currently playing off 8.5. That is a career low, and the velocity is trending in the right direction. So I spent quite a few years sort of in that mid-teens range, anywhere between about 14 and 17. And what was interesting is doing exactly what you talked about before, playing with sort of the same group of guys with the same conversations. No one's really challenging each other. Doing what I now refer to as playing blind man golf, where you really don't know what you're doing, but you're just turning up and going through the motions. But what happened was I really started to identify as that mid-teen handicapper. And that sets that level of self-perception, which I really think is genuinely limiting to your ability to improve. And it was a conversation which was actually right at the very beginning of this podcast that happened with a work colleague of mine who said to me, like, oh, you play golf, what's your handicap? I think at the time it was about 15. He's like, all right, what's the best it's ever been? I said, oh, about 14. And he goes, oh, okay. How long have you been playing for? And I said, I don't know, on and off, maybe 10, 15 years. And he goes, right. And you're not getting any better. Like, what's the story? And I started to answer the question with saying, oh, golf's difficult. There's complex. It's a lot of this, that, and the rest of it. And I could hear the absolute garbage in my answer. And that actually forced me to rethink it and look at it. And so I then went out and said, no, I'm going to identify as a 10 handicapper. When I was playing a 15, and then lo and behold, scores started to drop, right? But my question, my issue is that I'm now seeing the lag in the other way, that performance has improved and handicap's been dropping, but the self-belief and really identifying as a mid single digits and then hoping to get, below 5 and towards scratch, trying to think about myself in that way to actually allow myself to play to that level is not easy. So that self-perception piece, I guess that's the question. How do we sort that out?
Yeah, the self-image is very strong, and it's your golf game, it's your fitness, it's your finances. Like, the self-image is just so important, and I don't think enough people try to, really ever even become aware of what their self-image is. And it sounds like you actually, that conversation you had with your friend was probably good because you actually realized it and you had enough self-awareness to be like, this is garbage. Why am I even saying this? And so that's like one of the things with my students. I'm always listening to the language they use, because the language you use shapes directly your belief system. And so it's very important to, even if you just played terrible and you say, my game's trending, or velocity is increasing in this game, right? Like, nice. You have to be very, very careful about the words that you say to yourself. And so many guys, like I was playing in a tournament, a practice round for a tournament maybe a month ago, and it was me and my friend, and we got paired up with a couple, and they were probably in their 60s and, very nice people. And the first thing, though, he misses a putt on the first hole, lips out, and he just starts in with, I'm just a terrible putter. It's not my day today. Going to be one of those days. And I just listen. It's like he's had these same 7 excuses just like in his head, and they're just rattling around. He had so many lip outs and he missed so many putts. And obviously it's golf. You're still going to have those, no matter how good your attitude and self-image is. However, you're not going to have as much fun, and you're just setting yourself up to make golf even harder. So yeah, very careful about the language I use. I had a rough day on the putting yesterday myself, but I never once said I suck at putting, I'm a bad putter. Those words don't even cross my mind. So I think that the words you say to yourself have a direct impact on your self-image. So when you're trying to break a scoring goal, or you're trying to get to a new handicap, spending time off the course. And again, this is another one of those great things you can do in the off season when you're at home, you don't have time to get to the course. Get clear about what you want. Do you want to be a 5 handicap? That's great. Write down in a journal, I'm a 5 handicap. And then you can write down, how does a 5 handicap think? If I was a 5 handicap, how would I carry myself? If I was a 5 handicap, how would I practice? If I was a 5 handicap, what would I do after I hit a bad shot? And try and get as clear as you can about the golfer you want to become. And then once you map that out, that's a fun process too. Like, I don't think we we think about this enough, but I mean, everyone has seen the power of your mind, whether you had a job you wanted to get and you ended up getting it. You had a girl that you wanted to date and you ended up getting, like, it's about getting clear about what you want and becoming that person, and then just staying persistent with it. So I think that off course mentality is so key with that. And then you can say, all right, well, what is a 5 handicap going to do? And then again, you kind of map it out and you set some process goals. So the outcome goals is great. I want to be a 5 handicap. Okay. Well, what does a 5 handicap do? How do I get from a 15 to a 5? Like, what do I need to do? And then you ask yourself those questions. You set some goals. Maybe it's to speed train 3 times a week. Maybe it's to buy that putting mat and do that 3 times a week. 30 days from now, 60 days from now, review. Are we trending velocity down, velocity up? And then we figure out, okay, I need to reassess my goals. Maybe I need to get a lesson. Maybe I need to work with a mental coach, like whatever. But you constantly are just reassessing. But one of the most important things you can do is getting clear about what you want and then acting like that, even before it has occurred. And like you said, you're already starting to see that happen in the way you carry yourself, in your scores. And if you do that long enough, your mind is going to be like, damn, I am a 5 handicap. And it's just going to start making it happen. And again, I don't want to like say the mind does everything. You still have to, if you're, flubbing chips all day, you still have to figure that out. You have to put in the work. But there's a huge mental component to the game that we just do not talk about nearly enough. And spending time off the course, getting extremely clear about who you want to become, can have a massive impact in helping you get there a lot faster. It's one of the biggest things I wish I would have done earlier in my own game.
Yeah, it's amazingly powerful, actually. I've been quite blown away by just that mental shift in what you accept as your norm. And I think a little bit to Andy Walker's point before as well, that when you're shooting a score that's at a certain level that's a little bit better than, ordinarily what your handicap is. And the handicapping system, there's great things about it, but I think it introduces some of this limited thinking as well, where you kind of pigeonhole yourself at a particular level. And that's where you start to freak out a little bit if you're not clear about where you feel that you need your game to be. So there's that element.
Real quick, this reminded me, perfect. It's a great example. So you just mentioned it as well. You want to get there and you feel uncomfortable, right? Yeah. So let's go and you imagine that you're back on that, 5 holes? Did you say you had 4 holes left and you didn't play them quite as well? So go back and then now let's think about, okay, this is going to happen again. Let's go to the future and say, hey, it's 2 months from now. I'm in the same position. How am I going to act? What am I going to do? Imagine hitting a good shot and being like, nice, having a kind of a pat yourself on the back moment. Then imagine hitting a bad shot. Okay, bad shots doesn't mean you're going to have a bad score. How do I react to it? Because think about how many times people are playing well, they hit one bad shot and be like, oh, that's it. I'm always doing that. And then they spiral and then all of a sudden you have a tough finish. And so go into your imagination sometimes and actually recreate that situation that you're going to get into. Imagine I had a couple guests on my podcast, and they have a book called In the Zone Secrets, and they talk about actually getting a scorecard. And as part of a visualization, imagine writing the scores down of a course that you play a lot, and imagine you're making it and you're finishing strong and you're breaking through new plateaus. So you're mentally training your mind that, hey, this is what's going to happen. Here's how I'm going to react to a good shot. Here's how I'm going to react to a bad shot. Here's the self-talk I'm going to have. Here's the body language I'm going to have. And getting a very, very clear outline of what you want. So then when you do find yourself in that situation again, your mind's not going to be as like, oh, this is new territory. It's to be like, mentally, I've been here before. I've rehearsed this. So I think mental rehearsal off the course is key. And then if you're trying to break a scoring plateau, maybe you've never broke 90, never broke 80, play up a tee, play up to the women's tees, play up forward tees, whatever we're calling them, right? Like just get out there and get comfortable with different scores. And eventually it's just going to be a lot easier. And I think that many pros have talked about that, playing the forward tees. So I think that like playing the forward tees, getting comfortable with scoring, and then having that mental side of it can really help kind of speed up that process.
Look, I think that one thing that you said, Mike, that's has really sort of got me thinking, actually, trying to think while you're talking and sort of listening to that as well. But actually writing down your how you react and because at the moment my stretch goal, I've said, okay, well, if I can get to sort of down to about a 2 handicap or maybe a 1 handicap by the end of the year, that'd be great. And Steve and I talk about acceptance. But now that I've shot a couple of rounds where I've been under par, I'm sort of thinking, have I set the bar a bit too low here?
You have.
But then actually writing down okay, well, say I want to stretch myself even further and get to +2 or +3. Okay, well, how does a +3 handicapper act? What would a +3 handicapper do in this situation? And actually writing it down and then mentally rehearsing that self-image so that when I'm in that position next, I've got a mental image of of how I want to play, but to actually then have it written down and having rehearsed it beforehand, I've never really sort of thought about taking that approach before.
It's cool. What you've done, we've had this kind of topic has popped up a few times, but what we've not had up until this point is a method, and that is very cool. So, thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I think I appreciate you guys letting me know that's helpful, because I just feel like the whole point of my brand and like the stuff I talk about is just doing different to get different. Like we so many, like you said, so many people stay at 14 handicap their whole life, and then they never try and get better. They never mentally get better. They never physically get better. They're still playing the clubs that aren't right for their game. Like there's so many things, but you have to, if you really want to achieve your goals, even if you're strapped for time, there's so many things you can do, but it requires you to get out of the box. It requires you to do different things. And if you are just going out to play golf and have fun, that's fantastic. You don't have to do any of the stuff we talked about. Like, just go out and have fun. Like, literally, I love that. But I know golf attracts the type of person that wants to improve. Because you hit one good shot and you're like, damn, that was cool. I would like to do that more. And you may make a putt. You're like, I'd like to do that more. And then you get some accolades like, wow, your swing's looking good. Wow, you broke 90 for the first time. Wow, you shot 80 in the club championship. Like, it's an addictive thing, and it's fun to see progress. I think that the older we get in life, we get very stale. We get very, this is my routine. This is when I wake up. This is what I do. This is who I hang out with. So golf can be a really good place to see progress. And I think that Tony Robbins always said progress equals happiness. And I fully believe that in golf and in life. If you're just making a little bit of progress, it is so intoxicating, and it makes you keep going through the good and bad days. And I don't want anyone to think that just because you do mental training and just because you're doing different doesn't mean you're going to have just this ascension and you're just going to hit your goals in 90 days. Like, there's going to be ups and downs, but that's why you need such a strong mindset, because you have to be ready for when that moment comes and you play terrible and just, everything goes off, or you're just having one of those days where it just feels like you can't do anything right. That's why your mindset and building these things off the course is so key, because so many guys quit golf, and that bumps me out. Maybe that's the reason I wanted to start my brand too. It's just to give people that little bit of hope, that little bit of like, here's what we can do to get better. Because a lot of people quit because they do not see progress. And so if you can just see a little bit of progress, you're more likely to stick with it. And as we all know, there's always that one shot that keeps you coming back.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think we kind of saying similar things, but we approach it from a slightly different angle. Like you're talking about the preventing people from giving up and quitting and walking away from the sport when they still could have had, so much more to offer and so much more to do. We're kind of looking at this in a similar way, where we're going, middle-aged guys, and probably middle-aged women as well, but, certainly from our perspective, we're a lot more familiar with the lived experience of being middle-aged guys. And all the other things that come in and demand your time. And it's really easy to kind of, for want of a better term, like go quietly into the night of your sporting life and just let it drift away. And then before you know it, it's gone. And we just really railing against that reality to go, no, there is no reason why in middle age, and the catch cry of our show is it's two guys either side of 50 searching for middle-aged sporting glory. Like, it's just such a non-glorious thing, but at the same time it really is, because if not now, then when? And don't accept just that same old that you've just got to kind of go and waste your time in the office cubicle and just live a life of service to your employer and your family and everybody else. It's okay to go out and try and achieve and do something, and that probably will bring a better version of you to every other facet of your life as well. So it's kind of got that all wrapped up in it. But the other concept, which is sort of big for us, that's related to all of that, is the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. We talk about this a lot. I feel like this probably is something that's at the heart of what you're talking about as well, Mike.
Yeah, the book Mindset by Carol Dweck was one of the first books I read in 2017 in the mindset kind of space. And that was when I quit my job. And the first few years was brutal. I was trying to figure out how to make money online, build businesses. I was trying to figure out how to get into pro golf at 30. I mean, my mindset was pretty bad. And I luckily discovered books like that and Tony Robbins and going to, meditation seminars and doing different things. Cause I was like, man, this thing runs us on and off the golf course and we got to figure out how to use it. Nobody gave us a manual on how to do that. And I think that for me, when I really look back on those times, it was like learning about inspiring stories of people that did stuff later in life. Like the guy who created KFC, he didn't do that until he was in his 60s. That's amazing. That's one of the most well-known brands in the world. And then you start to realize there's hundreds of stories like that. And I think that having the growth mindset is so key because it doesn't matter if you're 30 or 50 or 70, there's a lot left in you. And I always like this quote from Jack Canfield. It was like, you were not given a dream without the capacity to fulfill it. So if you have a dream to start your business at 50, to get in a better shape, to play your best golf, at least give it a shot. I'd rather try and fail than to just, like I said, look back and be like, damn, I think I could have been all right at golf. It's not going to be easy. Don't get me wrong, but nothing ever good is. And so I think that understanding it is a growth, having a growth mindset is the only way to do it. Because if you just believe I am who I am, I would still be shooting a 124. Yeah. But I refuse to believe that. And I'm shooting, 50 shots less than that. And that came from a growth mindset. That came from, okay, it's not a failure, it's a learning moment. So every time you fail on the golf course, you miss a 2-foot putt, you shoot the worst round of your life, you choke when you're playing with your boss for the first time. Those are not failures. Those are glorious learning moments. And I say this because I've made so many mistakes, so many failures. I topped my first tee shot in college in front of the team and the college coach. I mean, it was the most embarrassing moment ever, but I learned so much from that. And it's so cool to look back on it. So yeah, without a growth mindset, you're pretty much thinking, I am who I am. I'm going to stay this way until I die. And that's a very lame way to go through life. And so if you can read that book and understand that concept, it will change the outcome and the velocity of your life.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if I used it right, but I wanted to try.
You did.
Love it.
You did. Look, we're probably nudging the amount of time that we've got you locked in for.
I got another 10, 15 if you guys want to keep going.
That's nice.
I talk golf and life all day. It's up to you.
Oh, that's the best. It's the best two topics that there is. In fact, I don't know that they're two topics. I think they're one topic. Golf and life.
They are.
What is life without golf? Well, that's getting a bit esoteric. Andy Walker, I might give you a chance to ask a couple of questions. I've been hogging the microphone for a bit.
Yeah, all good. One thing that sort of briefly mentioned, and it's something that I bring up every time we're talking about whether it be the mental game or talking to someone about mental golf, and that's meditation.
Oh yeah.
What's your approach, view on meditation? We were talking about it last week with John.
It's the thumbs down again. He's giving us the thumbs down.
Again, my hands are up here. I'm thumbs up towards meditation.
Yeah, look, it's one thing because both Steve and I really struggle with actually sitting down and doing
Staying
a meditation session. There's a story, and I'll let Steve tell a story in a couple of ticks about sort of where we were at the start of the show and the conversation we had. But I really like, I've got a couple of dogs, so I go out and I do more of a walking, moving meditation, try and stay present with what I'm doing with them and try and be in the moment, but actually sitting down. And you hear about sort of Tiger Woods, massive, in the meditation space, and also, hypnosis as well. And they talk about him actually, when he was at his best, he was almost in a hypnotic state. What's your approach to meditation, and what's your sort of gauge on sort of where that sits in the game?
I think it's huge. So like I said, when I was reading Carol Dweck's book and when I was starting my whole journey, that's actually, I think 2018 is when I did I went to a transcendental meditation seminar, and it was just like a local workshop here, and you learn the process. But I think it's kind of like everyone knows there's all these benefits to it, but I think it's misunderstood. So you don't have to just like sit in a room by yourself and that can be meditation. It can be, and you can use apps like Calm and Headspace. Those are great. Or literally, like you said, going out with your dogs, doing a walking meditation, that can count too. Like I think people think that it has to be this certain way, and that like if you do it 20 minutes at this time every day as part of your morning routine, and then you cold plunge and get in the shower and you're like going to be this Zen master. And to me, I think it really just comes down to the goal is to simply become more aware of our thinking. And I am not a meditation expert at all. I do meditate a lot. I do hypnosis a lot. But I think that it just comes down to the ability to understand when a negative thought is coming at you, you can catch it. Because a lot of times we're just, our minds are wired for negativity. And it's a survival mechanism. Yep. So it makes sense, right? We're still thinking the tiger is going to come get us. We never got the software upgrade like our phones get every few months. So we're obviously thinking like that all the time. So we've got to be super careful about it though, because your mind's running your life. And if it's running negative scripts all the time, it's going to make it really hard to succeed on and off the course. So I like meditation because it gets you just a little bit of time, one, away from your phone, which I know I need a lot and all of us need from screens. And, we have so much stimuli. So I think it gives us a good time to just become aware of it. So that way, if you're aware of it, if you're at work and something bad, you're going to say something bad because you're reacting too quick. Same thing's going to happen on the golf course. So I think that meditation is a good time to master self-awareness. And then on the flip side, hypnosis is a time to reprogram your mind. So hypnotherapy, I listened to John's tracks this morning, actually, he has a bunch of different ones in his mental fitness programs, and they're fantastic. I've went to hypnotherapists in person. I've done self-hypnosis. I've done a lot of apps and tracks and stuff, and I found a ton of success with that. So I think that's really good if there's a certain habit that you want help with, that you want to overcome by simply learning how to reprogram your subconscious. And it feels really weird, and you're like, what am I doing? And, I think it's, again, very misunderstood. But when I started doing it, I was at a place where I was like, what can it hurt? It's not like my life was not trending up. I did not have a positive velocity in 2018, 2019. And that's when I got into all this. And it made a big difference. And again, it's just another tool in your toolbox. Like I always try and tell my mental students I work with, like, we just want to arm ourselves with as many tools as we can for the good days, for the bad days. So that way you're prepared for them. And I really like meditation. I really like hypnosis. And I think it all just stems to knowing yourself more. The more self-awareness you have, the easier it is going to be to catch those negative thoughts and to not let one negative event lead to a bad day or bad week. And same thing with golf. Like one bad shot is not the end of the world if you have the right mindset, and it's not going to lead to a bad hole or a bad string of holes or a whole bad day.
Yeah,
it is.
It's an interesting topic because, as I said, both Steve and I struggle with actually sort of sitting down. It's like, sit there and start, trying to meditate and all these thoughts sort of, come into your head going, what are you doing? Like, you've got so much to do
there's so many kinds. Yeah, there's so many kinds. And if you're thinking I'm too busy for meditation, you're the exact person that needs meditation.
I'm that
that's
guy.
What a coach once. That's what a coach once told me. But like one coach I had told me that you want to think of meditation like your mind is a busy freeway. And imagine there's like a hill right next to the freeway, and you're just up there, and the cars that are driving by back and forth, those are your thoughts, and you're just up there kind of watching them. So it's okay to have all the thoughts. It's not like when you meditate, you just like go brain dead and have nothing. It's just your ability to just separate yourself a little bit and understand it's kind of like a mental recharge. That's what I try and think of it as. Like in the mid-afternoon, sometimes I'll do a hypnosis or a meditation, and I get like a jolt of energy. It's a digital detox too. So there's different kinds. Like there isn't like a one size fits all. But if you do want to try something that's guided, I think a lot of people are just overwhelmed and they have no idea where to start. Like Calm, Primed Mind, Headspace, they all have guided ones. And so it can literally be 2 minutes. It can be 5 minutes. Like there's just no one thing. But I think that there's just so many studies and so many benefits, and you see how many successful people have done it, and Tiger and Phil and so many different golfers talk about it. And that's why I really like Full Swing this season. I don't know if you guys watched the second season, but they talk about the mental game so much and hiring mental coaches and working with people. I mean, 20 years ago, this was like a stigma. If you had a mental coach, you were a freak, right? You had like an issue. You didn't even want to like know. You don't want people to know. Now people are like, yeah, I work with a coach. Why don't you? And now it's like kind of flipped. So I think it's really good. And I think, again, it just all comes down to how many tools can we give ourselves to be prepared and deal with those tough situations.
Yeah, and look, I did watch Full Swing, and that episode, I think it was like episode 3 or 4 when they had the difference between Joel Damon and Wyndham Clark, and just the comparisons between those two guys, and the heights of which sort of Wyndham Clark ended up winning the US Open last year, and then the struggles of Joel Damon, and his internal battle, I guess, of going from relatively unknown to after the first season of Full Swing, that he was sort of like a cult hero. But then he really struggled with his game, and it's just really interesting to see the comparison between those two guys, and one of them's really open, like Wyndham Clark's really open and getting help, and where he's gone, and Joel Damon was really pushing back towards trying to figure out himself, and I don't have a problem, I've just got to figure this out myself.
See, he's got a lot of trauma
too with that side of things.
Yeah. And he's got a lot of trauma to work through with cancer history and those sorts of challenges that he's faced. But I also think the other thing, this is a self-perception point, he kind of got that cult status by being that laid-back everyman character and not being that super intense golf pro style, that sort of self-deprecating approach, which is another one of the things that we often talk about, is the person. No one likes the guy that turns up at the golf course and says, yeah, like I am good. All right. Like I am going to tear this place apart. And then after the round says, yeah, geez, I played well. How did you go today, Andy? Oh, geez, I played well. Like I hit some beautiful shots. My putting was slick, up and down from everywhere. Like, you're going to slap that guy in the face in the clubhouse rather than sit down and have a beer with him. So I think there's a little bit of that. Joel's probably at the extreme end, as opposed to accepting that there is some growth potentially that can happen there. Joel Damon, friend of the show, if you're listening, you're welcome for that development advice that we've just imparted on you. Give us a shout out on X or something. So anyway, I don't know where we ended up with that, but the meditation piece, Andy Walker was talking about that. So in like episode 3, I think it was, where we very first went through our development plans, and I had shared that I was going to embark on this journey of meditation because I thought that it was the right thing to do after hearing a lot of these stories. And so my approach was to wake up in the morning and try and spend 5 to 10 minutes sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at a golf ball, because I didn't want to stare at a candle. I thought I'd stare at a golf ball, keep it at least on topic. You may be surprised to hear, Mike, that it didn't work out for me very well.
I mean, I'm such a type A. Like, I get it. Like, when I first started, I was like, this is stupid. This doesn't work. Like, I've made it this far in life without it. Like, my parents definitely weren't teaching me this stuff in, middle school or high school. It's not like they were meditating or anything. So you got to have, that's again, the growth mindset, right? It all goes back to that. Like, if you want to, no one has to do anything, but if you want to get better on and off the course, like, why not try stuff like that? That's my whole mindset, is like, let's just try it. Like, if I don't notice anything, I'll stop. But if I notice an improvement, okay. Like, same thing with like fitness, same thing with golf. Like, just try it. Like, try a new club, try a new diet, just try it. Like, there's no way, there's not like you have to do it the rest of your life. But again, we get in these lulls and these ruts, and we wonder why we're not improving or progressing. And sometimes it's just trying something different. So if it didn't work for you, try a different app, try going to a seminar, try hiring a coach.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that the active version, I'm probably more of a chance of succeeding with, because I've always struggled with sitting still. It's just not really my thing, right? Like I could never sit in the classroom and sit and listen and concentrate. Like, I had to be doing stuff.
No one's making me. I couldn't go back to school if anyone offered me $1 million. Like, I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
so
100%.
I understand.
Yeah, so I think probably that approach. It's a valuable conversation for that. Mike, any last words of wisdom? How do we forge through? How do we achieve these goals? Our velocity feels like it's on the right path. Any thoughts? You know us now an hour better than what you did an hour ago.
Yeah, I think your pilgrimage is off to a good start.
Nice.
I think I was fortunate enough to be a guest on Mark Immelman's podcast a couple weeks ago, and his final question really, it almost stumped me a little bit. Well, probably because he said, I haven't asked this question since Jordan Spieth was on the show. I'm like,
oh, wow.
Okay. No pressure here, buddy.
Yeah.
Great guy. And he basically is like, what's the one thing you know about golf after all the time you've played? And I guess I was like, wow, I feel like I should know a lot after millions of words I've written for clients and a couple of books and podcasts and everything else playing. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was just keep going, because you guys can hit your goals. Like, there's no doubt in my mind you can. It's not like you have some physical disability and you're unable to, get out there and do it. Like, you guys are very put together guys. You have good goals. You have accountability partners. You obviously are able to get out there and tee it up. So that would be my biggest advice, is just keep going, and do not expect it to be a perfect. Like I said, you're not going to just drop, week after week, month after month. It might, but then you might have a terrible week or two, and that's part of it. Like, so I think that having the right expectations of it, and you cannot fail if you keep going. But if so many people are just like, it's going to take longer. Like, if I would have thought, however long it took me to get where I am with business, with golf, I guarantee you I wouldn't have probably done it, because it takes longer than you want it to take. Yeah. But they always talk about the growth is the journey, right? Like, the result is cool, but it's really the person you become in that quest. Yeah. So I would just say to keep going, and to objectively and subjectively analyze yourself and your game. Like, that's why tracking stats is so important, because hey, my driving sucks, my putting is the worst part of my game. Like, you understand objectively what it is, and then subjectively you can kind of know maybe an area of your game. Like, I used to really struggle out of the bunkers, and I've tried a lot of different things to get there. Finally, I went down, drove a couple hours to get a lesson, and I feel really good about it. Like, my stats showed I was struggling there. I mentally, I knew when I walked into a bunker, I was not walking in with Phil Mickelson confidence, but I was like, you got to own it. You can't run away from it, because there's so many parts of the game. If you try and ignore one, that's going to be the one that'll let you down when you're 2 under and you're, trying to play your best golf. That one's going to come up. So understand that weaknesses are part of the game. Spend most of your time working on those, and it's consistently doing that, repeating, rinse and repeat. And then hopefully you're going to have a more well-rounded game, and give yourself more opportunities. And that's really the goal, right? We got to just give ourselves more chances to hit those goals.
Mike, that's awesome. I think such a great way to wrap up this discussion. I can't tell you how much we appreciate you coming on the show and so generously sharing your knowledge. It is absolutely it's absolutely brilliant. And I think that's one of the great things. That's what golf is all about. Golf is helping other golfers become better golfers. We talk about that a fair bit, and that's really what it comes down to. So before we wrap up the interview, though, where can people find you? Where can the pilgrims go searching for you and find you on their pilgrimage? Because no doubt they will want to. Plug away.
Yeah, if everyone wants to increase their velocity in their own pilgrimage, I would say I'm pretty much every social media platform except X. That's when I got to step up. But yeah, everything is at Wicked Smart Golf. If you're just looking for the main stuff on social media, my book is also titled Wicked Smart Golf, available on Amazon or Audible. And then I also I have an online Wicked Smart Golf Academy and mental golf coaching as well. So you can learn all about that just at wickedsmartgolf.com. So I make it pretty easy, hopefully, to people to find me. But yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on, and love what you guys are doing. And if I can help with anything as you guys keep going through your own pilgrimage, just let me know. I'm always here to help.
That's amazing. Be wicked smart and find the missing links to golf. I think that's the way
I like it.
That's the way we tie the brands together. No, that is amazing. Thank you so much, mate. We appreciate it. Andy Walker, any final words before we wrap up?
No, just a big thank you. I mean, I've got so much out of the conversation today, and I'm going to have to go back and listen to it a number of times to really sort of pick through all of those little sort of nuggets that you've shared. So yeah, really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
of course. Thanks again for having me, guys.
Absolute pleasure. Andy Walker, what a chat that was.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Michael is a guy who, I've now listened to a fair bit. I really like his approach. I like the approach, and as everyone sort of now knows, like I love ball striking, right? So I've worked on my swing a lot. I try and be technically correct, but he deals with everything around the swing and the swing changes, not actually changing your swing. So it's all about the mental approach. It's all about strategy. It's all about, just, having your approach complement your game. And obviously, and he says that you do need to have some skills in when you're improving with golf, but yeah, you've got to then get out and play the course and have a strategy behind what your swing ends up being. And as he says, you're always going to be working on your swing. It's a never ending cycle of playing well. Maybe you've got it in the groove, maybe you don't. It's something that people work on their swing, and even the pros, it's a never ending cycle that they're on. He deals with the stuff that's that complements that. And I really like what he's got to say and how he approaches it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think, the secret's in the name, right? Like, we are searching for the missing links, for all of the bits, all of the extra bits that go together to improve your golf. And there is more to playing good golf than just perfecting your golf swing, but not for a moment will we ever suggest that you neglect that, because obviously, it's important. But at the same time, there's all these other little 1% elements that go together, to actually create good golf. And I think that's what we were talking about with Michael. It's all of those little bits and pieces. It's good decision making, it's good strategy, it's good practice technique, it's looking after the small things around short game and some of those elements. Even mental preparation with things like meditation and mindfulness, and some of those elements that all come together and actually improve your overall game. And they are the bits of secret sauce that I think really live up to our show name of finding the missing links for better golf.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I really like as well is he says that you don't actually have to leave your home. Like, there's so much you can do just in the confines of your house and your property. You don't actually have to go, while it's important to go to the range or go to the course and practice, there's a lot that you can do from home. And whether that be mental game, whether that's, just as simple as what we've done in putting a practice net and a practice mat, or getting a putting mat. That was one thing that we discussed last week, obviously, and you were sort of not convinced that having a putting mat would be that useful. Whereas, Mike does think it's useful, especially in conjunction with the putting mirror.
And I think that's the thing, because
3 to 6 footers.
The reason why I'm somewhat dubious about the effectiveness of a putting mat is because I have one. I own one. And I got, and this was the issue, right? Like, I was using it particularly last winter, before the high performance center. So I was using the putting mat, and what happened was I was getting really fixated on the mechanics of the putting stroke.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And that's only a small part of the puzzle when it comes to putting well. We've talked about this a few times now, that there's sort of 3 elements, real key elements to being a good putter. One is obviously having strong mechanics so you can roll the ball on the line that you intend to roll it. But the other is speed control. And then probably the most important is green reading. And a putting mat won't actually help you, certainly with the green reading.
Yeah, look, and I agree with that, but certainly those, and where I think a putting mat is going to be really beneficial is that 3 to 6 foot range.
And that's the thing, I guess. It's really drilling
and
down.
I've never thought that, and certainly speed training or green reading, it just doesn't help with that. And I completely understand that. But getting your posture right through a putting mirror, and I hadn't actually thought about getting a putting mirror to use in conjunction with a putting mat. I've seen people use a putting mirror on the practice green. I don't own one and never have had one. but certainly getting one to make sure that your putter face is square, making sure, and he talks about getting the larger one so that it aligns your shoulders as well, and then making sure your eye line is either over the ball or inside of the
just
ball.
Inside, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's brilliant. And if you can get that part of your putting right, 3 to 6 feet on a putting mat, just whether it be in, inside or in your garage or wherever you've got room, then when you go to the golf course, that's when you can work on you just need to work on your speed control then and obviously green reading then comes as part of that. So you can get sort of that, at least one part of your putting done at home, and then when you go out, you can maximize what time you've got, on the practice putting green.
Yeah, it all makes sense. I think that the mirror would be a good addition for all those reasons, because the other thing, sorry, there's two things. Listening to Michael talk, he's mentioned a few times, not necessarily in this interview, but he has mentioned a few times elsewhere that one of the great uses of the putting mat is around sort of really dialing in your pre-shot routine for putting. Actually practicing that as a process, which is important. But then the other thing he's talking about mirrors. I was reading an article which was pretty funny. I can't even remember where it was, so I'm not going to give any plugs or any disparagement because it's not necessarily a good suggestion. But I was reading an article that was talking about do-it-yourself at home hacks for training aids, and they were talking about putting mirrors. And someone said, you can really cheap putting mirror is get an old CD or DVD and turn it upside down and use that as a putting mirror.
Right.
It doesn't work, Andy Walker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not convinced that that's the best way forward. But anyway, each to their own.
Yeah, it's rubbish. So that's not of much use. So don't bother with that one, ladies and gentlemen. If you come across that same article and you're thinking about using the old CD as a putting mirror, it doesn't work.
Yeah. And just on, and you mentioned it before, the subject of meditation, it just seems to come up.
It does.
Almost every time that we speak to someone who has some knowledge and expertise around the mental side. So I think maybe it's something that we need to have. I know we've talked about it before and said that we need to maybe have another crack at it, but I think that's something that we need to have a serious look at. What are your thoughts?
It's funny you say that. I have been trying to just sort of spend a few minutes before going to sleep, like lay down in the bed before drifting off, just do a little bit of focus on the breathing and clear the mind and that sort of gear.
How do you feel that Yoda would feel about you trying to do it?
Well, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. So I think he's okay with that. And it's, I don't know. Does it make any difference? I don't know. I haven't noticed any difference at this point. When do you notice differences from doing that? I don't know.
I don't think
how long does it take? I don't know.
Yeah, look, I don't think you can do one meditation session and all of a sudden you're fixed.
Which is a shame because that'd be amazing.
I think it takes a little bit more than that, and it's the same as anything, as when whether it be swing changes, whether it be working on course management, whether regardless of what it is, speed training, it's consistency of application, and I think you need to do it day after day, week after week, month after month to really see any real benefit to doing it. I think if you're going to do it haphazardly and not in a strategic manner, you may as well not really do it at all. It's sort of what we were doing pre-podcast. We'd sort of get out and play golf on the bottom rung of the ladder, and if something else came up, we'd punt golf and go and do that. So at least now we're seeing some meaningful improvements in our game because we are consistent.
True.
And I think that's what we've got to do when it comes to meditation. And I'm 100% guilty. I haven't had a crack at it all, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But it is something that seems to be sort of gnawing in the back of my mind, that every time we talk to someone, it comes up that it's a really important part of your game. And the 1% of the 1%ers they're the ones who do it really well, and they're the ones who do it strategically and consistently. And you know, I don't think that's not a coincidence.
All fair. One thing I will say is that just this understanding, I suppose, with the approach to meditation, because the thing that I've struggled with, and I think I spoke about it a few times, and probably with Michael and potentially with John Weir when we had him on the show, is that, and actually I think it was with John Weir, because we're talking about the mental golf type and the extroverted personality type, and therefore, you know, sending the energy outward. And what really puts me off is hearing all of the other outside stimulus that comes in and puts me off. And I do get that in the golf swing as well, because I'm sort of aware of everything that's going on around rather than being in my own little bubble. That's a little bit of an issue. But one of the good things in listening to these conversations and working on this, and I have been actually trying to work on this whilst I am doing some, you know, a little bit of focus on the breathing moments when I can, is that it's not about shutting out the outside world and pretending that it doesn't exist, nor is it about when you're hearing it, getting upset about hearing it and trying to pull your focus back. But it's actually more that I think it might have actually been in the interview with Michael that he used the analogy of sitting on the hill watching the freeway and watching all the traffic go along, but just observing it, and they're your thoughts or the external stimulus, but not getting involved in it. I've actually found that kind of thinking helpful on the golf course when I'm there, and some of the background noise that might be from other groups out on the course, not even your own group, that previously would have put me off or annoyed me, actually just observing it, being aware of it, letting it go and not engaging with it. That and in that end, it's actually quite useful. So there's 1 point for the meditation process for us right there, Andy Walker. Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Yes. And look, the other one, and I know Michael does this a lot as well, is journaling. I know he's a big journaler. He likes to write down his thoughts and his feelings, and you know, how he goes throughout the whether it be a practice session or around. And again, and not just in golf, I've heard different people talk about journaling. Not something I've done a lot of. But again, it might be something that's worthwhile just to, and certainly for you, if you sort of think you're being that extroverted mental type, you know, getting out there and getting it on paper, I think might be part of, you know, a really good part of the process.
So try this on for size, Andy Walker, because I was thinking about this after it was talked about. What better way to journal your experiences with golf than once a week getting on a call and recording all of your thoughts? Is this not a journal?
Yes, it is. It is to a certain extent, but sort of like our goals, they're, you know, not writing them down.
Yeah, I still actually think that from this one, I feel like it actually fits the bill. I mean, you could probably journal a few more personal things about rounds and practice sessions and those sorts of things, but I do think that, you know, part of the exercise is going back to times when you've played well or played poorly and what you were thinking, learning those lessons along the way. I think if you went back to one of the early episodes, you're going to get that value. Like I actually do think that what we're doing here on the podcast is actually in some way, shape or form a vocal journal.
Yeah. Look, and I don't disagree.
Maybe it's a vernal. It's a verbal journal.
A vernal.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah. I like it. Yeah, look, and I don't disagree with that. However, and Michael did mention it as well, you know, the written word just seems to have a power that, whether it be thinking or talking, just doesn't have. And that seems to be a fairly common theme as well amongst those who are extremely high achievers.
Yeah, no, that's all fair. That's all for it. But look, I think there's a lot in there for us to digest. Yeah. Certainly a lot to think about. I can't wait to go back and listen to that interview over and over again and pick it apart and kind of, you know, truly try and look at the bits that are really relevant. Lots of things in there, I think, for all of the pilgrims. Probably one or two things for Ted from Mollymook to latch onto, I have no doubt. You know, maybe something for Alex from New South Wales to pin his hopes on as well. Who knows? I think there's a lot there. But before we wrap up, Andy Walker, any other thoughts that you that you want to pull apart?
No, look, I just think that, same as you, I'm just going to go back and just listen to that interview again. There's so much to it. And it also complements what I'm listening to and reading with Michael's, whether it be his audio book or the program I've enrolled. I've watched a couple of the webinars now that's inside the program. So yeah, lots of stuff to add and to complement into what I'm doing, and in addition to the mental golf type as well. I'm still involved in going through the mental golf type as well. So
yeah, absolutely. There's still a lot to do there, for sure.
Yeah, lots of stuff to go through, and it'll probably take me a good sort of month or two, I reckon, to get through it all.
Yeah, well, we'll continue to share the lessons as we go. I have, interestingly enough, also picked up a copy of John Sherman's Foundations of Winning Golf, which
nice.
I've now just started reading. So I will report back to all of the pilgrims on that one. We reached out to John as well and have offered him a slot on the show, waiting to hear back. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure one of these days, he'd be a busy man at the moment, but I'm sure one of these days we'll get him on the show. So there's more to look forward to.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, but Andy Walker, next couple of episodes, have you got any rounds planned? Anything?
I do have a round planned for next week, sort of the last week of April. So, which I think by the time this episode drops, it'll probably be this week.
Could be tomorrow. I don't know.
It could be tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm actually heading down to my old stomping ground down in Mollymook.
No way.
This week, and we'll probably have a round up at Hilltop. So really looking forward to that. Been a little while since I played Mollymook, and yeah, lots of really, really good memories down there. Yeah, and I do have a little sort of ace up my sleeve as well, of something that I have participated in that I've been talking about for the last few weeks, that I think it's going to be, and I'm not going to say anything just yet. I'm going to leave it for another episode.
This is exciting, ladies and gentlemen. I look forward to hearing all about this. It's good. Yes. This is good. It's a step in the right direction.
For those pilgrims who know and understand sort of my journey and what I've been doing and what I've been struggling with, you could probably guess what I've just gone and done.
That is exciting. It's very exciting.
And looking forward to getting into that and having a chat about that, because I feel as though that's a really big step in the right direction.
It is. It's very exciting. Well, I can't wait to hear all about it. There's a lot to unpack, and I will be having a competition round this weekend, trying to chase down your 100% gross differential percentage. So looking for an even par round or better.
And look, I will be the first to congratulate you if and when you do it.
That would be
would love to see an even par round.
That would be
come out.
Hell of a turnaround for you to shoot even par and lose.
Well, I've still got one more round to go, so I'm looking subpar. I've been subpar the last couple of comp rounds at my home club.
Just haven't closed the deal.
So maybe.
Well, best of luck, Andy Walker. I, for one, cannot wait. Looking forward to sharing all of those experiences with the pilgrims. But, ladies and gentlemen, I think that pretty much is it for this episode. It was an absolute cracker. I hope there's a lot in there that you get to take away, and certainly learn a few lessons about that along the way. Feel free to get in contact on Facebook, the Missing Links Golf Show. Find us on Insta with Missing Links Golf. We're on X at TML Golf Show. You could email us directly with feedback, questions, or anything else via the missinglinksgolfshow@gmail.com. I think that's pretty much the only ways of getting in contact with us at the moment. Still working away feverishly in the background on the YouTube channel and potentially on a new website, but more information to follow on that at some point at, I would imagine, the back end of 2024.
Yeah, not sure if feverishly is the right word, but anyway.
Thinking about it feverishly. Yes. But anyway, we'll get there eventually. Any other thoughts, Andy Walker, before we let her rip?
No, just have a good week, everyone. And as usual, rock out, pilgrims.
You better believe it.